Good morning, guys. It's a lovely misty day out here, so I thought I'd do the Q&A outside, a little bit more uplifting that way for all of us, surrounded by birdsong and whatnot. It looks SoCal kind of has Morrowind vibes. If you remember that game, maybe I'm outing my age. But anyway, it should be nice. The birds are chirping. Some lady down the hill was playing a recorder, but she's doing a good job of it, so I don't mind if she starts back. I think that would be perfectly fine. It's not copyrighted. So anyway, let's get into it. Before we do, I just wanted to ask you guys, especially for Instagram, but also here, what content ideas are most interesting to you? What would you like me to write either an essay or make videos about? Just comment below and then we'll get back to the video and I'll answer some of your questions. I'm going to be going from both YouTube and Instagram, so I'll be on my phone a lot. I'm not ignoring you, I'm just looking at the questions, but that probably made sense anyway. Okay. Of course, I'm immediately having service issues, but that's okay. Okay, here is oh wow, I got 50 questions on YouTube. This may be a while. Okay, let's start. How should one approach fasting, not necessarily for fat loss, but for getting rid of food addiction and reliance? Currently bulking for a while, and the benefits of fasting you've mentioned, I'm most interested in is lack of need for food in general. By that I mean if you don't have to eat if it isn't convenient or can't eat for some reason that doesn't impact you at all. This sounds like it'd be very helpful in my life. Honestly, I mean that can pretty easily be attained by just practicing some sort of like single day fast, like the popular 16/8 schedule. Just don't eat or just stop eating at the normal time you eat the day before. Just whenever you normally stop eating, just wake up, don't eat breakfast, drink black coffee, water, but no calories of any sort, and then just continue that on until like 3 4 p.m. or really whenever's convenient. That's the most important thing is for you to fall in love with this, it's got to be convenient for you. So if that doesn't work for your schedule, don't try to force it. But anyway, it's going to suck at first, but do that consistently. About 2 weeks it shouldn't suck anymore, and then keep going until you find that it's actually pretty convenient. Now it's especially going to work if you have a job that works for you to kind of segment your productivity into the earlier part of the day so you can just get all your work done, whatnot, during your fasting window, then break your fast, relax, eat your food and whatnot. If you have a way to make that work, then you probably will just end up enjoying it, and that right there should break your food addiction. The issue is if you have to have kind of like segmented productivity, like let's say you have to actually be really productive around like 4 p.m., that's going to be harder to make work. So if that's your if that's your setup, maybe find something else to do. But honestly, just experience with it. Um, you should get to the point where you just naturally choose not to eat certain times when it's not convenient. Just be mindful of how you feel right before you eat, and then like 5 minutes after, and it should be a no-brainer. Being hungry is not as miserable as having to work and fighting, you know, post lunch, like energy crash, like wanting to desperately to nap, but you still have to work, or God forbid you're on a long drive and you're like fighting to stay awake because you just ate something. I pretty much any long drive I have, I'm always going to fast, even if I'm bulking, just because I don't want to deal with like falling asleep. I'd prefer the consistent energy and not having to worry about all that over hunger. Um, I mean, to really just bulletproof that and like give you a feeling of complete independence, I recommend doing at least one like 2 day fast. But honestly, the single day stuff should work perfectly fine. Best way you found to progress pull up reps? I mean, I haven't ever really done anything more complicated than just go try to do AMRAPs, try to do as many pull ups as I can. I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, after you get to a certain point, probably you're going to go a little bit stale on just regular pull ups. So then either do different variations like, wide grip pull ups or something like that, that changes the challenge and stimulation and is going to develop more areas that the regular pull up isn't quite so good at, or add weight. Just keep progressing, you should be fine. um Favorite character, book, and author in the Warhammer 40k universe? I haven't actually read any of them. I just kind of like look at some of the lore videos occasionally, but I mean, um, yeah, the favorite character, I don't know. I mean, the that I'm forgetting his name. That Necron dude who like steals stuff is pretty funny. I think that's cool. How would you recommend implementing plyometrics and Olympic lifts into a general lifting program? Um, so it's, I'm not I don't do that much plyometrics. I do like box jumps and stuff sometimes when I have my kids at the park, but I don't do that much of it to be honest with you. As far as Olympic lifts, I would say don't worry about doing like the full variations, like, full, squat, snatch, squat clean, just getting your jerk really good, unless you care specifically about getting good at Olympic lifting. I think you can get a lot out of them without having to be like a technique master. So, like the low hanging fruit there is just do power cleans. You use power cleans as one of your heavy pulls from the floor, just the way you might use a deadlift or something, right? That's actually what I did starting off. I would like power cleans were my pull from the floor before I ever started deadlifting, and just by doing power cleans, I was pretty much able to do a 405 deadlift the first time I ever started trying to do it seriously, right? You don't have to worry too much about technique. Just get the weight up high and catch it right. Another really low hanging fruit Olympic lift is one hand snatch. You can make that as easy and meathead or as not easy, simple and meatheady as you want. Just pull the bar really high. It's got a lower barrier of entry, a lower skill requirement or mobility requirement than the two hand snatch actually, with plenty of power generation and whatnot. But at the same time, you can make it as complex as you want. If you want to do a full one hand squat snatch like they did back in the day, you can also do that. So it allows you to tailor the skill level to wherever you need your skill level to be to make that work for your program. And if you don't want to put that much emphasis on skill, you totally don't have to. One hand snatch is perfect for that. Um, I do recommend doing some kind of explosive overhead lift. That can be a push press, that can be a jerk. I prefer behind the neck jerks because that eliminates my front rack, which is kind of a really weak energy sink where I lose a lot of power for that kind of stuff. But just something to overload that overhead position. Just get some heavy weight overhead in whichever way you deem um, most effective. But you ain't got to be a technique master. I'm terrible at all of them, and yet I've gotten a good deal of benefit from Olympic and Olympic style lifts, right? So that's my recommendation. Um, oops, goddamn, why did this go out? Adding an arm day to the Space Marine program and the exercises you would use. Um, so the exercises I would typically, if you can, I'd like you to have weighted dip, like weighted full range dips in there, or actually not weight. You don't need to use weight. You could even use a band to scale into it if you need to. But if you can use weight, obviously do that because that's great for both arms and a little bit of extra chest volume, but especially arms. That will be a big tricep exercise we'd start with. For for biceps, definitely your incline curls and your preacher curls are both going to be good options. Also, some sort of hammer curl. Probably do those in the preacher style too is going to be more effective than regular. Um, you're also going to want some kind of a long head movement for the tricep, like overhead tricep extensions or lying tricep extensions, French press, etc., something like that. Um, it's not a bad idea to throw in some straight arm bicep work, like incline, like straight arm bicep raises. I mean, a ton of options. Definitely JM press for triceps. If you can make that work for you, it's not aggravating to you. That's obviously a really good one. I mean, bicep and tricep work, right? Probably not a bad idea to throw in some more forearm work on that. If you wanted to really keep everything healthy for your arm day, to keep your arm days working well, it's good to work all the functions of the wrist if you're doing it. I mean, this is like bonus stuff, but get your radial and ulnar deviations. I you can set those up either with like something like a club or an off center weight, like a stick with a weight on it, or with bands a wrapped around plates, running through your fist. You can set those up, and also your rotations. It's going to be good for your elbow health, and some forearm work as well. As far as like direct forearm work, I mean, you know, reverse forearm curls, and then I really like the Chuck Sipes forearm curls, finger curls, where you're holding the bar up like so, and just doing curls in. It's a good option. So that's probably what I'd add. Okay. How do you stay mentally focused on your training when life keeps throwing you curveballs? I mean, to a certain extent, you kind of just have to do it, and there's no trick to it. But I mean, the other factor here is that training is kind of my only outlet. I don't really have any time for anything else. I don't have any hobbies apart from training and what I'm able to do with my kids. So I go hiking here a lot with my kids. Um, but yeah, I mean, just because I'm pretty much either parenting or working, like training is the only thing I do that's for me. So it's kind of like, if I'm not going to, focus on that, what am I going to do? And the only thing that's kind of a struggle is making sure that I do what I need to do instead of what I want to do as far as training. So, just don't treat big max outs that are going to be fun if you get it as kind of like withdrawing from the bank, and doing the training you need to do is putting into savings, and just make sure you're putting a lot more into savings than pulling out, because someday you may feel like you need your big PR for the whole like lifting is my therapy thing today, but you might need it even more later. So I would advise setting yourself up um, for big PRs down the road later. But yeah, I mean, there's no trick to it. You just have to do it. What's your favorite bug? Um, I mean, dragonflies are pretty cool. It's hard to beat a good dragonfly. It's hard to beat a good butterfly. I also really like, I don't know what they're called, but they have these really big beetles out here in SoCal in the late summer that have this really shiny green shell, and they look really cool. Ladybugs are nice. Those are all good bug choices. Uh, Favorite dinosaur? Cryolophosaurus. That one's cool. It's got a cool crest on its head, but it also lived in Antarctica, which is kind of cool to think about, because these like Antarctica at that time was shifting off of Pangea and moving like further southward, so it got increasingly cold. And these dinosaurs were probably warm-blooded, probably had feathers, like probably were encountering snow. So imagine like these crazy tactical dinosaurs, like doing like Arctic survival stuff. It's pretty cool. It's a three-parter. How how much spine movement is too much in a Zercher deadlift? I mean, there really is no amount that's too much. It's your spine's supposed to flex in that exercise. I mean, the only thing I would say, I mean, I guess if you're exaggerating it more than you need for maximum power, I mean, you're not supposed to turn it into a Jefferson curl. You're just trying to get the weight off the ground, but um, yeah, I mean, there's no like solid answer to that. Will we get to see a road to bigger lateral tricep series? I can't commit to making like a series on it. I mean, I just don't have time for that degree of filming, unfortunately, at least not right now. I gotta put my time into what is more, financially viable, which mostly my main focus is, one-on-one coaching right now. So I'm building up my roster there. Anybody who's interested, hit me up in the link, or honestly, hit me up on Instagram. That's the best way to get to me quickly. Just DM me on Instagram. Um, but I am trying to work on that lateral head, where I think I figured out some stuff that's working for it a little bit better. I'm getting more sore there, and not emphasizing the uh, long head as much as I was. But it is a struggle for me trying to get the gym JM presses to hit it without annihilating my elbows. So I'm trying to I'm trying to kind of thread the needle there, but you'll definitely see progress there. Um, Kind of on the same note, I'm trying to emphasize the brachialis a lot more. So we'll the it's happening in the background, but I can't guarantee that I'm going to film everything. So, what will be your minimalist guide for isolation, targeting specific muscle? I generally respect the idea of maximalism training that you and basement bodybuilding recommend, but with all respect to you guys, I don't have that luxury. So, minimalism, squat, snatch, clean, and press. I could get extra 15 minutes 3 times per week for isolation. What would you recommend in those circumstances? So if you have small time blocks, I would just recommend doing something that you have time to train thoroughly. So if I had to only 15 minutes and I wanted to work out, I would do neck because I can get a good solid neck workout done, I think, in 15 minutes. You can do a whole lot for the forearms in 15 minutes. That's kind of it. Depending on how you do it, I mean, you can set up if you can set up something that you can do like one good solid AMRAP and get some work out of it. That will work too in a very small time increment. Like let's say you have a convenient squat rack set up. You could just warm up and do like a one set of 20 rep breathing squats and then be done. I mean, you're probably not going to get anything done right at the end of that 20 minutes, but that can work too. But I mean, at the end of the day, depending on how advanced you are, you have to do a certain amount to get good results. And you know, just train something that you have time to do well rather than just try to do everything and half ass because that's not going to work. Does odd lifts are harder to learn for tall and long-limbed individuals? No, not necessarily. Some work better for long-limbed individuals. I mean, anything that's going to be any kind of deadlift is probably going to work better for long-limbed individuals. Anything that obviously requires like deep knee, um, deep squat, or obviously pressing is going to work better for short-limbed individuals, right? Intensity and volume seem to be at odds with barbell lifts. Which do you find more important? If it's volume, do you think back down sets are a good strategy or not? Because the lighter weight taken to failure can allow you to ingrade in bad patterns. No, I don't think that intensity and volume are at all at odds with barbell lifts. Why wouldn't you be able to? I mean, I guess if you're doing like if you're talking about like a back squat, you can't literally go to failure or you'll be in trouble, right? But you can still, I would say the intensity of a 20 rep Widowmaker back squat, even if you take it to 0 reps in reserve, that's still going to be, in a real sense, more intensity than just about anything else. I mean, intensity, I don't think we usually define it as like reps to failure, but come on, like some of these are just going to be more intense, right? But anything that isn't a back squat, I mean, you can go to, whatever intensity you want to, anything where you can just drop the weight. I mean, you can take your rows to complete muscular failure and beyond. You can do like the partials or whatever. If you have a spotter on bench press, you can go to till you fail and do force reps, like so there's no reason why you can't. I mean, just assuming that you take you know, safety precautions and obviously don't try to go to failure on bench without a spotter in a gym by yourself. There's no reason why you can't use a high degree of intensity on barbell lifts. And yeah, I would definitely say intensity is going to be more important than volume. I don't like even worrying about volume. Which is not to say I'm saying low volume, just it's going to depend on which exercise you use. And typically, the big barbell lifts are going to require less volume. Some exceptions, I mean, you might need more volume, I think, on rows in a lot of cases because of that weird, resistance curve. It's harder to really exhaust yourself in one set. But anyway, yeah, intensity definitely. Volume is like very much a secondary consider, not even a secondary consideration really. Um, What do you experience with joint pain, elbow, shoulder, ankle, knee, back? I mean, that could be an hour long video, man. So I'm dealing with elbow pain right now. What I found to be really helpful is the grip expanders I've got from Golden Grip Shop. Those are really helpful, as well as the rotations I already showed in the video. Doing some like wrist rotation, radial ulnar deviation training is helpful in managing that. I mean, shoulder pain, um, usually it's going to be, I mean, what I found to be helpful, I've dealt with a lot of it. What I found to be helpful is stretching out that upper head of the bicep through stuff like incline curls, just behind the back work. It's also really helpful to have good. I like banded curls. I do bands like with my elbows braced, head down, like so to get a really good pump in the bicep. Good pump work for the biceps really important. And then as the rest of the shoulder, it's important to uh, maintain your internal and external rotation capabilities. So just I mean, I'm on a table. You can like prop your elbow. You take a dumbbell and just kind of do your um, rotation like so and so. That'll work. I mean, you have to start light with that and just kind of progress gradually. But if you get your internal and external rotation to where they need to be without pain, that will help to make sure you don't have any shoulder issues, as well as stuff like pullovers to make sure you have good extension overhead. But yeah, shoulders are have been an issue for me. Another really important thing is just to have a bunch of exercises in your arsenal. Just there may be like one track of movement that doesn't work. Maybe wide grip, wider grips on the yeah, barbell overhead press don't work, but something neutral like handstand push-ups or dumbbells work, or maybe behind the back feels good, maybe behind the back feels bad. So just and a lot of times it'll switch up on you. Even like one like shoulder issue will switch up on you which one feels good. So just have a have a good little arsenal of exercises. Um, yeah, where was I? How do you train legs without a rack? Sorry, where are we at? My bad. There was another part to that question. How do you train legs without a rack, and how do you recommend starting out doing behind the neck pressing? So legs without a rack, I mean, obviously you have your body weight options like sissy squats, reverse Nordics. I've got videos up on how to get into them safely with bands. You can still do barbell back squats. You just have to get the bar on your back. I prefer Arthur lift. You can also do Steinburn squats. I've got tutorials. I know I've got a tutorial for the Arthur lift up on here. Everything else is covered in my book. Parking lot bodybuilding, I've also got a good tutorial on both of those up in that program. So if you're training without a rack, that's a good option for you. Just you can still do barbell back squats. You just have to get the bar up. Once you get good at that, it's not really going to limit your intensity all that much because you can just do higher reps, and the Steinbrun squat or Arthur lift isn't going to be probably the limiting factor. And obviously, Xerxes squats, right? You can get a great leg stimulus from Xerxes squats, even goblet squats with a barbell. It's really not that hard to train your. I'm assuming you're talking about quads. Obviously, hamstrings. You got RDLs. You got Nordic curls. You can set up. I've got a tutorial on here to set up Nordic curls. I mean, you're not going to have too much problem training your legs without a rack. To be honest with you. Um, how do you recommend starting out with behind the neck pressing? Try it with a barbell or hell, even a PVC pipe. Just see if the movement is comfortable, and if it is, high reps at that weight, and gradually add weight and see where you're at. And if it isn't, probably your issue is going to be a lack of external rotation. If so, just work on that. I keep losing my track on these things. Some of your favorite fitness books. I always mention Super Strength by Alan Calvert. It's one of the best books from the Bronze Era. It just really covers it's just a good summary of that, the lifting of that era. Good, and also kind of a fun read. It's Alan Calvert writes very well. I've actually had my writing compared favorably to his, and in old time lifts for modern lifters, and that was a huge compliment because the guy writes really well. So that was very something I'm very proud of. Honestly, the first fitness book I ever read was the Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding by Schwarzenegger. I don't know how much he actually wrote it, or if it was ghostwritten, but honestly, it's a great introduction. It's definitely got that. still for your theme, he's still recommending that you clean your presses and all that good stuff that you don't hear anymore. So that one's a very good beginner recommendation, to be honest with you. Not that I'm endorsing his politics or anything, but I mean, the book's fine. I mean, if even to the extent that he even wrote it, the book is good. Have you ever had a serious injury you had to adapt your training around? I just tore my meniscus and have to change due to a bit of swelling and pain. I mean, define serious injury. I've had I've had the back injuries we all get. I never got it I never went to get it diagnosed, but I've had that pop and then you can't walk the next day and just you can't even roll over in bed. I've had those plenty of times and I just have to wait for that to recover and then get back into it. I'll tell you right, the first thing I do right up there, I'm gonna take a walk up a good steep hill, and that's gonna be the first step to back recovery for a low back injury. But that we're not talking about like getting folded in half in a car accident or anything crazy like that, right? Just lifting injuries, not that big of a deal. I didn't talk about previously, but yeah, I've had plenty of that. Yeah, just start off with a good walk uphill, work into walking lunges, hip thrusts, and then 45-degree back extensions. And once you're good with that, just start doing high rep deadlifts and you're good to go. And then we'll obviously, then start doing Jefferson curls at a very lightweight afterwards so it doesn't happen again, right? Um, I guess I should say I've also dealt with knee pain, never like an injury. I've never, twisted my knee in a skiing accident or anything, but I've gotten to the point where I had knee pain that was limiting, you know, my training, and I had to just eliminate a lot of exercises and then just work back slowly, starting with Spanish squats, which are an excellent knee rehab move, and just slowly add back in what I could. But yeah, I've had to curtail my knee training. Definitely, I've had to eliminate most all pressing at various times for shoulder injuries. But just kind of do what you can without pain, and then gradually push back into some of the stuff. That's pretty much it. Recommendations to improve recovery for lower back when you've had issues in the past. And you have a young family with kids, don't sleep well. So, I mean, honestly, there's not that much you can do to specifically improve recovery. I mean, if you have an active injury, 45-degree back extensions are fantastic for getting blood in there and just making you feel healthier, making it heal faster, I guess you could say. So, getting the blood flow in it, just like I already kind of mentioned, some other stuff you can do to actually recover from an injury. As far as just like improving the speed of your recovery, I don't know that anything really does that. I mean, people, to be honest with you guys, I really, really, really think people overstate the importance of sleep and whatnot. I have kids, I don't sleep well. I haven't noticed it to impact my recovery. But as far as just like improving your muscular recovery from workouts, I mean, your body's going to take the time it's going to take to get back to full capacity, and it is what it is. And I don't think there's too much you can do that's going to drastically change that. So if you're talking about just trying to be able to work out more frequently, there's not that much you can do. You can try an exercise rotation because I think you'll find that movements each have their own kind of cool down time. So, you may not be recovered from conventional deadlifts by the time that you want to do conventional deadlifts again, but you might be able to do, heavy barbell rows or, even a deficit deadlift or something, something that changes up the stress just a little bit, if that makes sense. So same muscles, slightly different stress pattern, you might be able to recover from a little bit more quickly than just doing that same exercise over and over again, right? Um, where are we at? The classic question of if you can gain 10 pounds of pure muscle, which body part do you want to grow on? Well, obviously my upper arms. I mean, can you imagine if I had like 10 pounds? Well, honestly, at that point you look like Greg Valentino. So I wouldn't even want 10 pounds. I don't think 10 pounds of muscle in my arms would be good even. I would want like maybe five. Because other than that, I would just like put, maybe I guess like five on my. I guess if I'm doing 10, counting forearms, yeah, well, let's put it on the whole arm and shoulder area. I guess. I mean, that's actually, you know what? We'll divide it between arms and calves. Let's just divide it between the whole arm, so we're not getting all 5 pounds right in the bicep. Just between arms and calves. But yeah, I mean, just, arms seem to be the thing. If you have big arms, you're an expert. And if you have big spinal erectors, no one cares. And that's sad. But whatever. We all do what we must. Um, Damn it. Sorry guys, I keep losing my place here. Um, oh, we got some squirrels fighting up there. Okay. Thoughts on 4 days on, 1 day off training schedule? Sounds fine to me, depending on how you set it up. I mean, with any kind of training schedule, it's going to matter how you do it more so than what the schedule is. You can make anything work. I mean, you can make every day on, no days off. You can make whatever you want work, but it's going to be how you do it, not what you're doing. What's your take on jaw face training pertaining to my goals specifically? So the only jaw training I do is honestly I do neck extensions and like twists and stuff with a bite on a towel. But the only reason I do that is because it's slightly quicker to just go out there and bite down, just like loop a band through a weight real quick and bite down on a towel real quick than it is to put on a neck harness. So it reduces the time that I need to get a good neck workout in. Um, that's really the only reason I do it. I mean, I don't really, I don't, I guess it's cool to have a strong jaw, but I have never found like I've never been biting something. I'm like, damn, I can't bite this good enough. But I do it just for that factor alone, just the time saving, so I can get my neck workout done a little bit quicker. Knee bend during Jefferson curl. How much is acceptable before it becomes a Jefferson deadlift? How can I cue straight legs better? Do I cut depth at the end of straight leg mobility and work on that? Great question. This does not come up often enough. I do have a tutorial on Jefferson curls up for members. If you guys are interested, sign up. There's very cheap options. I have a video on troubleshooting up that'll also be or in the works. It's filmed. I just have to edit it and put it up. And then after that, we're going to get into advanced variations of deadlifts, or I'm sorry, of Jefferson curls. And then after that, we'll go in whatever direction you guys want. If you guys subscribe, I'll basically put out all my Jefferson curl tutorials on there, and if that works, we'll keep going with it. And if not, we'll on to the next thing. Ultimately, I have to go with whatever is working to get me money, right? Anyway, knee bend during Jefferson curl. So yeah, no knee bend is acceptable, and the way to fix that uh, is to simply lower the weight to the point where you feel comfortable. In most cases, even very strong guys, they can usually round their spines and they're not going to have any issues, but they will be very uncomfortable keeping their knees straight because a lot of strong guys have hamstring mobility issues, right? So you may have to go down to what you think is a very, very lightweight, like 15 pounds seems to be a good sweet spot for a lot of guys, and just work that straight leg position because that's the only way that's going to get better. And eventually you're going to get to the point where you can tug on it a lot harder, and that's going to be when you start to get the hamstring mobility gains, and you're not going to have that problem anymore. Your mobility is going to be a lot better. And don't worry about cutting depth at all. I mean, your depth is whatever you can get to doing the movement right. That's why the Jefferson curl is such a versatile exercise that can work even for senior citizens who might not be able to get all the way down to the objective height necessary for just a regular barbell deadlift. Um, but as far down as they can reach with their range of motion, that's where the movement ends. So it scales to pretty much anybody. Um, yeah, just go down as far as you can while doing the movement correctly, and that's what you're going to get the most benefit from. Okay. I'm just now today starting behind the neck pressing for fun and shoulder health. Previously, past 9 months, I would do normal overhead press on this day. I'm going for it regardless, but things to be cautious about. Just understand it's going to be a lighter movement. Start very light and see if it works for you. And if you do feel shoulder pain, I know, everyone's pushing back on the behind the neck press is dangerous thing, and that's all well and good. But for some people, they're not ready for it. It doesn't mean it's a bad movement, but that also doesn't mean that you should just go for it regardless, even if you're getting shoulder pain. So if you do get shoulder pain from it, it may not be a good movement for you right now. Now, that doesn't mean just write it off forever. That means most likely get your external rotation squared away and then do it. But yeah, don't, people are pushing back on that, and that's perfectly that's appropriate, but just make sure you don't assume that means that everyone can do it right now. You know what I mean? Hypothetical. You're designing a minimalist program that has squat, bench, deadlift, pull-ups, overhead press, and barbell rows. You can only add four more exercises to the program to create a well-rounded physique. Squat, bench, deadlift, pull-ups. Okay. All right. So I want to make substitutions, but I guess I can't. All right. So it's got you're gonna want some more hamstring work. I would say you're gonna want to actually, contract your legs. So we're gonna throw in Nordic curls. You can set them up with a band because you probably can't do them right now, or a lot of people can't. I've got a great tutorial on how to set them up with a band and scale them. Just search on there. You should find it on YouTube. Um, God damn it, I keep losing this. Nordic curls are an easy choice. How many do I get to add? I get to add four exercises. Okay. Um, hmm. You're definitely gonna want some arm isolations. Um, I'm only gonna pick one for each. We'll pick preacher curls, and I'm gonna go with lying tricep extensions. Just because I like those. So that leaves me with one more. I mean, to make it well rounded, you have to. I mean, you have to get some kind of calves going too, right? So I guess you'd have to do donkey calf raises. Mm, I mean, yeah, you just you can't. I'd like to throw your tib raises in there too, but you can't do that. So just kill it with the volume on your donkey calf raises, I guess. I know you're an advocate for fasting. Have you tried protein sparing modified fast by Lyle McDonald? Uh, yes, I have, and they fucking suck. I hate them. That's why I just go to regular fasting. In theory, it worked. In theory, you get like the same fat loss, although I I totally don't buy that. But it just sucks. Like eating 1,000 calories a day roughly is so much more miserable than eating no calories. So just I would much rather just eat no calories. I like Lau. I love Lau. He's talking shit about all the people I want to hear. Shit talking about. I love it. I watch all his videos until he starts talking about science, and then I tune out. I'm just there for the shit talking, to be honest with you. But yeah, complete calorie restriction is so more like livable and so much nicer. I hate protein sparing modified fast. They're miserable. Um, take your measurements everywhere and share them. Might be interesting. Well, I don't have tape measure with me right now. Um, I've done it. I've done it recently. I pretty much calves and um, bicep measurement. Usually kind of at the bottom of my cut, the left bicep, which is better, is just like a hair under 17. It's usually over 17, any kind of bulk. We're trying to get it to where it's solidly over 17 cut down. The left one or the right one, which is smaller, is usually around like 16 and a half. Um, edges over that on the bulk. Kind of the same thing with calves. I've got one that's 17, one's a little under. Um, quads are 26, neck is 17, and I don't know how I haven't like tried measuring my chest or whatever because that seems kind of hard, right? That's about all I know. What are your one rep max or estimated for Zercher deadlift, Zercher Jefferson, and Mansfield? Zercher deadlift, I think I've gone up to like 430 on that, but I just did a like one rep into a bunch of Zercher squats, so I didn't really not a true max probably, but I don't know that I could go that much higher. Zercher Jefferson, I've done 355 is the highest I'll count. I I did 365, but it looked a little ugly, so I'm not going to count it. Mansfield, I can't do because I don't have the mobility. Because for that one, you have to get all the way into the start position without bending your knees, and I can't do that. I need the bar. I need to like use the bar to lever me into position, which you can't do for a Mansfield. So Mansfield is just like it's a straight leg Zercher deadlift, but not only is it a straight leg Zercher deadlift, you have to get into position with straight legs, and that's the hard part. I can wedge myself into position under the bar, then straighten my legs, then deadlift it with 315. But so presumably, if I had the mobility for that, I could do the same weight on a Mansfield. But yeah, I don't have the mobility yet. What happened to the 5 day fasting vlog? I got, I just got busy. I had a ton of inquiries for one-on-one coaching that week. So I was mostly struggling to deal with that. And then, I mean, they weren't doing that well, honestly, in terms of views. And like, it was probably overly ambitious for me to try to do something like that anyway. Because I mean, you guys know, my schedule isn't that. I don't put out at that rate usually. And like the views just weren't that great. So it just kind of wasn't something that I needed to make the top priority. And then it shifted down. It never really got to that priority level. I've just got so many competing priorities at all times that it's never like it's always a question of what do I need to be doing that I'm not doing. Like that's um that's kind of the challenge of starting. Not that I'm like starting up a brick and mortar business, but starting to move into just making money in the fitness space. It is a business, and I've got a ton of different projects to work on. You know, do I focus on creating new programs? Do I focus on writing the book on fasting that everybody's asking me about? Do I do I advertise more and onboard more clients? Like what you know should I come up with a beginner program? Actually, if so, which one? Because I have one in the works with Eugene on the Ganbrew Method app. That one's already completed. I just have to come up with some promotional material, and I have to come up with like a headshot where I actually look friendly and approachable because that's kind of my issue. Like I've been talking to Movement by David recently, David Thurin. He's a really great guy for the marketing, really cool guy. He's a nice guy. I've enjoyed hanging out with him and talking to him. We met up for a hike that Paluva, the Five Finger Shoe Company, put on. Very cool hike. Anyway, I'm trying to learn his whole like friendly and approachable thing. But anyway, bottom line, I need to come up. I need to like have some kind of like friendly and approachable like picture that I can take that makes me look friendly to beginners and like normie friendly or whatever. So that's kind of the last thing I need to do to get that program out. Where was I going with that? See, I've got a bunch of stuff, right? And then obviously you know, when you have kids constantly, anytime I'm not working, I'm taking care of the kids. So it's like, it's about competing priorities and what do I need to do? Is today the day stuff around the house I need to be doing? Like, that's a lot, man. So, bottom line, like, if something like slips off my priority list and it's not the top priority, there's a good chance it's going to fall right through to the point where I'm never going to get to it. I mean, like the fast itself went good. I lost expected amount of weight, maintained good strength throughout, hit some lifetime exercise PRs on workouts during it, but I just ran out of time to talk about to make the videos. It just wasn't worth it. Where was I at? Do you think it possible for someone to physically lift themselves into the splits while hanging from the rings by their feet? I'm imagining something like an iron cross but with your legs. I'm the wrong person to ask. I can't even do. I'm working on a front split. And yeah, I think that's not too far off, but side splits, no. That's going to be a long time, and yeah, I have no idea. I would assume so, but yeah. So I don't know. Why do you wear jeans while lifting? I mean, so it all started out because I was just getting home workouts during the lockdowns while also like taking care of a new baby. We had our first my eldest daughter right before the lockdown started, so I'm taking care of a new baby and just trying to get my home workouts in with the gyms closed, in between like nap times and whatnot. So I just, came out wearing whatever I happened to be wearing, which at that time and still today is going to be barbell apparel jeans, right? I mean, they're flexible, they're comfortable. I just talked about front splits. When I get the front split, it'll be in these jeans. And yeah, I mean, they work for everything. They've got nice deep pockets to carry whatever I need for the kids. I think they're stylish. I like the style. They're comfortable. I mean, it's just kind of the thing you can wear for pretty much everything except going to swim at the beach, right? Um, if you want to pick some up, now's a good time because you can get cozy hoodie like this on any order over $99 for free. My understanding is that's until supplies run out, and they usually do. I'm told on the hoodies. So go ahead and if you do want to get the jeans, now's a good time. Um, I like I said, you guys know I'm not out here like pitching every supplement, the thing where you get your plot of land in Scotland or Raid Shadow Legends, but I mean, for real, I was just wearing barbell apparel jeans before I ever thought I would, become an Instagram influencer or anything, and here I am still wearing them, so I'm, yeah, I couldn't be more happy to recommend that you get them. Especially like jeans I was wearing then, fairly durable, good jeans. They would eventually wear out. Since I'm doing a longer form content, I'm going to show you guys my crotch, which is kind of weird, but they've got this. They've got the crotch area, which was the previous failure point reinforced now. So I think these should last even longer than that previous iteration did. I'm eager to see how long these new 2.0s last. But anyway, yeah, that's why I wear them. And obviously, at a certain point, it became obvious that like every time I do a video lifting in jeans, people are going to be like, "Why are you lifting in jeans?" So it's free engagement that I mean probably didn't matter that much, but something you can do, and it's just kind of created an image for me, kind of a brand image, which is I guess a useful thing to have, but it was totally. I mean, it's what I was doing anyway, so it was kind of a totally authentic thing. I just kind of went with what was already happening. You know what I mean? All right, where are we? All right. How to do a specialization phase, say 8 months in the overhead press in the most effective way possible. Um, well, I mean, if it's overhead press, you're definitely going to want to bulk. Definitely get your calories up. Honestly, get your body. If it's a little bit more of a dirty bulk and you gain a little bit of body fat, now don't eat like trash food that's going to like give you a bunch of inflammation. Um, but get your weight up because mass moves mass in the overhead press. Um, I So I would say with the overhead press, you could probably get away with. I would still probably train it once a week, but just emphasize heavier singles a lot. You actually get a lot of traction out of singles on overhead press anyway, just because the time under tension is so high, because you can just get such grindy reps out. I would say just train overhead press specifically like once a week, but then maybe do a secondary shoulder day where you're doing another variation. Even something like a push press, I think, is valuable just to lock in that overhead capability. But maybe do a secondary shoulder day where you're doing a secondary exercise. But yeah, I would say just do a lot of focus on a lot of singles and just get a bit of volume with it, and just get your weight up. Yeah, I want to. Damn it. Okay. Yeah. Where are we? Yeah. Oh, I want to have overhead press a shit ton of weight. How to achieve it? Yeah, kind of the same stuff I said. Um, Best movements to support the Zercher squat. Um, I mean, any squat will help. Any back exercise will help. In your opinion, which pre-steroid era lifter had the best physique? Um, I want to say John Grebeck because he just had the mass, but I mean he never. I don't think he ever cut below like 15% body fat. So that's um, it's hard to go wrong with Grebeck. Yeah, I mean I'd probably still give it to him. He just had the mass. I mean, cutting's not that hard. If he'd ever just did a hard cut, he would have been insane. Sorry guys, my wife called. I guess she ended up taking the kids to the same place that that I ended up going to. We take them out here a lot. It's a really nice natural setting, kind of in the middle of LA, but got your mountains and mist and all that good stuff. So anyway, I'm just gonna restart that question. Seen you advocate fasting before and call it muscle loss a myth. Yeah, so muscle loss isn't a myth. You lose muscle if you starve, but it doesn't usually happen at normal body fat percentages just because body fat is a much better store. Now, you'll be breaking down some lean tissue, but your body's always doing that anyway. Um, it's going to be very negligible, very small, and whatever does get broken down gets restored as soon as you start eating again. So it's really not a concern. Um, it's just just like your glycogen stores are going to get depleted, but then as soon as you start eating carbs again, they get restored, right? It's not really like you're going to be permanently losing muscle, right? It just wouldn't work. You can be very confident that you're not losing muscle because if you were actually losing significant amount, well, you'd have to lose a ton of muscle to actually fuel your energy needs. So if you're not like going drastically dropping weight, your body's using the correct energy source, fat, right? Has it helped your fat loss phases? Yeah, I mean it helps to just concentrate it, make it easier, simpler. You just get more fat lost per unit of suck that you endure than with normal dieting, and it just gets it done quicker. What I'm going to experiment with this time is on my bulk. I'm starting my bulk now. I'll probably do a couple little fasts here and there just to kind of strip off fat periodically and make it a little bit more of a lean bulk. Don't you risk your blood becoming acidic by fasting? Nah, not really. Rock, paper, or scissors? I mean, it kind of depends on what your opponent picks. Like you pick whichever one, you hope it's the right one. But if your opponent picks the other one, then you're screwed, right? Um, have you engaged with a bioenergetic repeat sphere of fasting? Specifically, that when fasting, you're just running off stress hormones to create fuel, which is essentially an inefficient process that causes metabolic harm to the body. No, I haven't. I don't. I really kind of. It's funny. I preach health because I'm natural lifter, natural bodybuilding stuff. I'm out in nature. Like I love health, but I don't engage with it. I focus on fitness because fitness is like measurable and with all this health stuff, it just gives so much opportunity for people to kind of like make up stories. They can tell themselves about what their hormones are doing in their body at a given time. It's all very difficult to actually prove in practice. Sure, you can like reference some study that showed this happened in this case, but as far as like seeing what's actually happening in your body at the time when you're doing it, I don't even bother with all that. Like I can see my body fat percentage via you know fat stores. I can see my performance while lifting. I can see my weight on the scale. I can feel how I feel, and that's what I go off of because it's just so easy to make up. Once you get into stuff that you just cannot directly observe, it's just so easy to make up stories or whatnot. I just don't think it's very useful. Yeah, and I don't know if this repeat lift. He probably doesn't. So what's the point? If you wanted to specialize and only grow your forearms as freaky as possible, how would you do it? First of all, you're going to need damn strong wrists. I already covered some wrist strengthening exercises, but I would add grippers to that. Definitely, I've got the series of grippers by Golden Grip Shop. They're awesome for that purpose. Just get your grip good. Probably I hear people, I've never done them personally, but everybody swears by the sand bucket thing. Just get a bucket of sand, like squeeze your fingers up in the bucket of sand. You're gonna want strong hands, and then from there, my personal favorite for hypertrophy is the Chuck Sipes gooseneck wrist curl. Do that like every 2 days, I would say. Supersetted with the just the reverse wrist curls. Probably a good idea to throw some kind of a finger curl in there. You can do it in the Chuck Sipes position. You can do it with a barbell, whatever's comfortable for you, but just to get that maximum stretch. Yeah, that that should be good. Just do it often with intensity, and you should be good to go on that. Um, that's favorite bug. I already like you guys really. I've already answered that. That's it's crazy how many. I don't know if somehow I'm seeing the same question twice, but yeah, I already kind of answered that. Many Olympic weightlifters do loaded flexion and extension. You can even find footage of Olympic wrestlers and Olympic weightlifters doing explosive loaded extension and flexion, many of whom compete for decades without back issues. If loaded flexion and extension was so bad, then it would break the athletes. We wouldn't see Olympic athletes jumping high boxes and doing heavy cleans and jerks. So why the massive disconnect with powerlifters and their body of history, especially those? Man, that's an interesting question, and yeah, it does seem a lot of kind of washed up powerlifters go for the McGill thing. I mean, I think because their sport just requires them to more or less keep their back, locked in place and not flex at all. I guess that's what they've gravitated towards. I mean, it's like yeah, it's crazy. These people want to I think they are afraid of back injuries because they all have it doing and these are mostly like old equipped lifters like West Side guys who just did a bunch of crazy lifts with you know all sorts of equipment nonsense, all just like super heavy weights, short range of motion, no spinal flexion in most cases. So they get back injuries and then they're afraid of flexion for whatever reason. I don't really get it, but yeah, I mean, people like weightlifters are just more athletic, so they know they can flex their spine safely, and they're not trying to use insane, ridiculous weights that no human was ever designed to lift. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, these people are just using every technique under the book. Steroids, recreational drugs, like bulletproof squat suits and everything to lift like just weights that no human could ever possibly lift. Without bending their spines, and then for some reason they think that spinal flexion with like a moderate load is I really don't get it. It's almost like Stockholm syndrome. They're just like they're doubling down on what got them hurt, and I think a lot of these people just don't have the intellectual capability to really challenge this stuff. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the longevity of your training? Is it something you want to keep doing for the rest of your life? If so, what's your approach to training with longevity in mind? Absolutely. I mean, my dad's in his 70s, still trains every day. He's not a lifter, but he does body weight. He's a beast when it comes to body weight. I mean, I think he can do over 70 dips. So, yeah, that's what I plan to do. I'll probably keep doing lifting, and I mean, I'm just going to keep doing everything as long as possible. I'll modify where I need to. Just really emphasize joint health, not you know, doing like some of these power lifters just pushing through injuries and just making things worse and worse to hit numbers. But as issues come up, let's address them. Let's get the joints healthy. And yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to peak in my 40s. Definitely. I'm not at 35. I don't think I'm at my peak. So yeah, I think that I'm eager to see what I'll look like in my 40s. Do you do any combat sports? No, not currently. I used to do judo back in the day. Some guy answered for me that I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't anymore. I did judo all throughout high school. We didn't have wrestling in where I went to school, so I did judo instead. Competed in that. Ended up taking up lifting because I was tired of getting of going up against guys that were my same weight, which at that time was 178. But half a foot shorter and like 10 years older. That was I didn't I my skill was you know fairly good for you know, the place I was at, which didn't have a ton of options in terms of training partners. I think I could have gotten a lot better if I'd had more training partners at or near my level. It was like I had some black belts to train with, and I had a never-ending stream of white belts who never stuck with it long enough. So I never had anyone that was kind of near my same like size and skill ability to really just practice with. But my the skill was in a lot of cases not the issue. I was just not strong enough for the guys that I was going up against. So that's why I started weightlifting, and then I stopped doing judo just because it wasn't convenient. It's more convenient to do something, an individual thing like lifting, where you can just show up whenever you want. You're the only one that you have to rely on. You don't have to worry about, you show up to the dojo and there's nobody else there, and so you just freaking wasted your Saturday morning. And then next weekend you decide, sleep in. I'm not even going to go. And then they're blowing up your phone. Hey, where are you? We want to train. That gets annoying, right? So lifting, it's all you. You don't have to worry about anybody else. Your success isn't dependent on anybody else. And the others, just like I said, like part of it is just do you have good training partners? I mean, I had good training partners, but like all the guys I had trained with were like way more advanced than me. So, and the other ones were just not. It's just like the only people that stuck with it were already black belts, and you just had a kind of a revolving door of white belts, and you don't learn as much by beating white belts or by getting beat by black belts as you do by competing with somebody at your own skill level where you have to work for it, but you kind of have the chance to actually perform something successfully. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, we're almost done with the YouTube, and then we have Instagram. It's gonna be crazy. Have you ever been tempted to put your athleticism to the test and have fun with it by playing a sport? I mean, I don't care about ball sports; those are not interesting to me. I want to do parkour. That's on my agenda, but I mean, we're having our third kid next year, so that's not going to be an option next year. Hopefully, by the time I'm in my late 30s and some of the kids are off at school or something, I have a little more free time. I want to get into parkour fairly seriously. Um, and if after that, maybe getting back into grappling. I mean, that was always fun, but definitely parkour at this point seems more fun and interesting to me than grappling. But I could get back into grappling. But as far as like basketball or something, I've never. I just could not care less about basketball or anything like that. Um, there's a ton of other stuff that sounds fun. But yeah, I mean, snowboarding's something that I like to do and that I don't get to do nearly often enough. It's like usually once or twice a year until we had the second kid. Now I just don't get. I haven't been up in the mountain in a while, but hopefully my eldest is going to get old enough I can go do that with her at some point. But yeah, it's what I'm most interested in. But definitely parkour is going to happen at some point. Just hopefully earlier rather than later. How overrated is progressive overload as a bodybuilding methodology compared with just intuitively lifting and getting in there and fatiguing what you're trying to fatigue and getting out? I mean, I wouldn't say it's overrated. I still think it's correctly rated. I think, Basin Bodybuilding's brought, he's made some good points that it applies more to your bigger lifts. It's not going to apply as much to your arm isolations. So yeah, on like arm isolations or, smaller lifts that don't have as much loading potential, it's going to be a lot slower. You're going to have to, sit with the same weight time and time again. You can still try for rep PRs and stuff. It's not necessarily going to happen. It's still progressive overload. It's just on a longer time scale. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say it's overrated. And I'm not nearly as worried about technique compromises as some of these people are. Um, I mean, I don't think you lose the benefit of an exercise by. Well, it really depends on what the exercise is. But in most cases, I don't think you lose all the benefit the second you change your technique slightly. Gooning while training, pros and cons. Is that what Zoomers are calling masturbation? I would assume you should not masturbate while you're training. That sounds like a very bad idea. I may not be using the Zoomer terminology correctly, however. Um, Three exercises rest your life. What are they? God damn, I hate these. I don't want to. I don't want to pick. I guess Jefferson curls, dips, and pull-ups. I don't know. Yeah, I. I mean, that would kind of cover all your bases, I guess. I don't know. No, no, it's gotta. No, it can't be that. Over, I guess strict overhead press, Jefferson curls, and pull-ups. Yeah, strict overhead press, Jefferson curls, and pull-ups. I guess. What does strength mean to you? I mean, just being able to, contract your muscles powerfully. I don't know, being able to do stuff. That's like, you want to lift something, you can go lift it. You want to move your body, you can move it, right? Just being able to, you know, put out force in a variety of different ways to accomplish a variety of different tasks, I guess. I don't know. Isn't it crazy how the majority of people in the gym don't understand the fundamental principles behind strength increases and muscle gain that Mike Mincer taught? What? Why do you criticize Joel Seedman when your content is virtually identical? What? Okay, well that we kind of ended on a low note as far as the YouTube comments. Let's go to Instagram. I don't promise I'm gonna get to all these because I had a ton on Instagram, but let's see if I can get to these. Okay. Sorry, it's taking a second to load here. Hold on. Yeah, Instagram's been really buggy recently as far as just trying to get it to load up stuff. It just doesn't want to do it. You know what I mean? All right. Let's see. Okay. Do you need to do compounds 2 times a week, one for strength, one for hypertrophy? No. You can totally just, I mean, if you're training for hypertrophy, you're also training for strength. Um, if you're training for hypertrophy, you're not necessarily practicing the skill of a particular exercise that you want to get, that you want to demonstrate a higher one rep max, but you're training for, if you're training for hypertrophy, you're training for strength. Um, if you had to give up one of the big compound lifts, which one and why? I'm assuming we mean like squat, bench, and deadlift. That's a pretty easy question. I've already given up bench press. The reason I'm picking bench press over deadlift is not that I think it's a worse exercise. I think it's a better developmental exercise. Deadlift is the one. If you're asking me which one is probably the least beneficial developmentally, I'd probably say deadlift. But it's just a lot easier for me to set to set up because it just requires a just a barbell. So I can still do it, a couple times a year or whatever. But bench press is just so, while it's a great exercise, it's pretty replaceable. I mean, you've got a ton of alternatives that train the same thing. Um, this is, you can easily replace it. Deadlift, it's a little, I mean, now there are a ton of like deadlift alternatives, like different styles of deadlift, but I'm assuming I can't just say, oh, I would give up conventional deadlift and do behind the back deadlift. That sounds kind of like cheating. So, I do think the stimulus of deadlifting in some way is more unique and harder to replace than that provided by the bench press. So I would keep it in there, even though I think overall the bench press is probably a better hypertrophy movement, certainly. Have you ever watched rugby? No, I have not. Exert squats as a sub for barbell back squats due to hip impingement. Fine as the main lift. I'm not going to speak on the hip impingement. I don't necessarily know why Zercher would be better for the, yeah, but if it feels better for you, do it. And yeah, you can totally make that work as a substitute. If you're trying to go for quad development, definitely make sure that you stay more upright. Make it more like a front squat. You can do it kind of like hinged over, that's going to be a little bit less of a substitute for squats and more of its own movement, kind of a hybrid hinge squat movement, which is still a good exercise, but it's just a little bit different. But you can totally just stay upright, more like a front squat, and that'll work better for quad development. Any tips? Any tips on how to cartwheel? Always struggled with it in wrestling practice. Train your freaking hip mobility. I have not done a good cartwheel since I was freaking like probably 6 years old. Okay, I remember vaguely trying to do it either when I was in my judo era in my teens or else in my 20s at some point. I just could not do it. And then the other day, while playing with my kids, I was trying to tumble with them and have some fun with them at the playground. I just tried a cartwheel and boom, busted. I figured I could bust some out, and it worked better than it did for me when I was a 20-year-old or 19 like what 17-year-old judoka or whatever because I've been doing hip mobility. So if your hips open up like that, it's pretty freaking simple, right? So that's my best tip. I haven't practiced it at all. What do you think is the worst thing to happen to weightlifting? Steroids. Simple. And not because it makes people unhealthy, but just because it allows people to substitute for knowledge. It allows people to just do whatever they think is best, even if it kind of sucks, and still get enough results to have people listen to them and make it seem like they know what they're talking about when they don't. It didn't happen immediately, but we've gotten to the point now where you have a ton of people who really don't know what they're doing when it comes to weightlifting that are kind of treated as authorities, and they don't know anything. But if you take enough compounds to like make weird bumps grow on your head, you can grow muscle even if you don't really know that much about what you're doing. To be honest with you, so yeah, definitely steroids. Just because they just kind of allowed false experts, and that's deteriorated the general lifting culture. Pistol squat PR. I think I've done 10 on the right leg and probably less on the left. They weren't the prettiest, but that was like 3 years ago. I haven't tried them in a long time. I could probably do more now if I practiced a little bit, but yeah, it's my best pistol squat. I don't think I've ever done them weighted. Maybe I did it with like a really small weight, but yeah, I think 10 reps body weight. How would you adjust the Silver Era Space Marine bench press rep scheme for strength focus? I mean, again, everything, hypertrophy training is strength training, so, you'll gain strength. But if you're trying to increase your one rep max better, if you want to keep the same exact schedule, just like warm up, do a bunch of non maximal singles, like 8 to 10 or so, and then drop down to uh, lighter weight and do an AMRAP. That's going to be better at getting your one rep max up. But I've got one of my clients, beast of a dude. Like he's benching I think 350 for three now. So he's running a very similar schedule, except that he's just doing bench press 3 out of 4 of his workouts. Um, and he's doing more sub max work, triples and stuff each day, not obviously not taking it to failure. And that's going to be more effective if you want to really specialize in improving your bench press. But if you're trying to keep the same overall structure, I would just do a bunch of submax singles on that day, if that makes sense. Okay, sorry. If I'm Somi with a bigger body but small neck, should I do partial heavy deadlift shrugs 3 4 times time after? I think he's saying he's got a big body, small neck. I mean, shrugs and deadlifts will help to a certain extent, but I would recommend just doing direct neck training. That's going to be a way more efficient way to do it. Just do some neck extensions and neck curls, and maybe some side to side action. Are 2 to 3 day fasts every week to lose around 15 to 20 pounds until Christmas feasible? I think so. I mean, some people will discourage fasting too frequently. I don't know your body fat percentage to start off with, but I'm assuming if you have a fairly high body fat percentage, you should be okay with that. So yeah, I think that's going to be perfectly fine. Where you get into issues is people that kind of that are already fairly lean or really just fairly skinny in a lot of cases because a lot of people that like fasting are kind of health enthusiasts instead of fitness enthusiasts. So they tend to be kind of skinny to begin with. And yeah, these people just want to do all the fasting for like whatever they feel enlightened or some nonsense. Okay, but we're talking about fat loss. Yeah, you can totally do that. You're probably going to be fine. Obviously, if you start, listen to your body. If it doesn't, you know what it's supposed to feel like. If it feels like something bad is happening, curtail it a little bit. But yeah, I think 2 to 3 day fasts every week should be fine if you're somebody that needs to lose because that should have you losing, weight at a fairly rapid amount. It should have you losing a lot of weight. So if you're somebody who needs to lose a lot of weight, I'm pretty sure that's going to be perfectly fine for you. I mean, if don't I'm assuming you're not trying to just like already kind of lower body fat trying to get shredded by Christmas. If that's the case, maybe not so much. But if you're already at a high body fat percentage, I think that should be perfectly fine. You single arm deadlift between your legs often. Why not normal one? Just makes the lockout easier. Lockout is extremely difficult on single leg deadlift or a single arm deadlift anyway. It's got um, it's just a really strong difficulty curve, kind of like a row, I guess you could say. Technically, for a successful completion, you just need to get it to your knees and kind of hold for the ref's down count. But yeah, the straddle just makes that lockout easier. It should be more or less the same from the floor to the knees, but the uh, the straddle position just makes it a lot easier to do a decisive lockout on it. What's the heaviest you've gone on power shrugs? I think like somewhere in the neighborhood of 900. What happens is you never get to a point where you just can't do it. You get to the point where it just becomes progressively shorter range of motion and less dynamic. And at a certain point, that becomes less productive. It's closer to just what you get from a rack pull than a nice dynamic power shrug. So I typically find that somewhere in the like 6 to 800 range is more profitable for me. But I've gone up to like 900 or maybe even over. I don't know, something like that back in the day. Is it possible to use natural plant dyes on a biosynthetic fiber? What? I have no idea what you are asking me that for, what that would even. What? What's the difference between a Jefferson curl and a Mansfield lift? I've already kind of addressed this, but I'll just quickly go over it again. Jefferson curl is an exercise that's where you're starting at the top of the movement, just deliberately rounding your spine downward without bending the legs at all into the deepest hamstring stretch you can, then coming back up. It's dependent on your body. Your range of motion is what your body allows. Okay, Mansfield lift is a lift. It's like a feat of strength basically. You have to stand in front of the bar with your legs straight and complete legs completely locked. You have to bend down, hook the bar under your elbows without like pulling yourself into it. Just get down there and hook your elbows and then lift and then deadlift the weight with straight legs. That's your Mansfield lift. So that's not really an exercise as much as a feat of strength. Why do you always work out in jeans? Already covered that, but if you skipped around, they're comfortable, functional. It's what I wear everywhere else. And yeah, it's just because barbell apparel makes great jeans. It wouldn't work in normal jeans, but in barbell apparel jeans, it's perfect. I'd rather wear that than athleisure or whatever. So go get some, and I think you'll find that it works perfectly fine. Random, but what brand of pants do you mean to get? I just covered that. Barbell apparel all the way. I couldn't be happier endorsing barbell apparel if you need jeans. If you don't like jeans, you're not going to like jeans. Although actually they have dress pants too now. They have tactical pants. They have a lot of good stuff. So I mean, I'd recommend any of it. How often do you do handstands? Because you're exceptionally strong. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I've started doing handstands at the end of my shoulder days, so once a week. I just do handstands against the wall. I'm trying to get better at it, trying to kick off the wall and whatnot. Okay. What do you think of trap bar power shrugs? I've never liked them. Well, I mean, first of all, I've never had access to a trap bar where you could fit enough weight on there. Like the trap bars that I've always had access to, you can only fit like 400 or 500 pounds on their max. So on a barbell, I want to be doing like 700 pounds. So obviously, a trap bar is not going to work for me. But I also think that having the barbell in front of you gives you a little bit of a better angle. The biomechanics nerds will tell you that the traps work better. The traps don't go straight up and down. They kind of pull back a little bit. Well, having the bar in front of you makes that happen a little bit more. So you could do, lightweight Kelso shrugs or whatever, or you could just do power shrugs and you're just naturally going to be at that angle anyway, except with 700 pounds. So I don't like the trap bars much, but I mean, feel free if you have a good one that you can load, feel free, whatever. Okay, God, I've got a ton of these. Ever done Muay Thai? No. Love your handle? Are you a Rand fan? I wouldn't say fan. No. I read her books, but I kind of grew out of libertarianism, you know, before I exited college, which I think is the appropriate timeline for that. I mean, there are good, good elements to her books. I think she writes villains pretty well. I will say that Atlas Shrugged, it seemed kind of ridiculous, just like ridiculous and over the top to me when I read it. It's probably in high school. It was probably like 2005 or something around that time, and it doesn't seem nearly as ridiculous and over the top now. Not exactly the way she thought it would all go out, but no, I mean, I'm not a libertarian. I know they have kind of a weird cult going on, which obviously I'm not in favor of, cults and bizarre stuff like that. So no, I would not say a fan, but I mean, yeah, I read the books when I was a teenager. You know what I mean? Beef or chicken? Definitely beef. Based on your top exercises, why do you prefer overhead press over behind the neck overhead press? It's more loadable and grindable, in my opinion. I mean, you can grind out a nasty like 7 second rep on front press. Not as much on straight on behind the neck press. That's pretty much it. If you could only do one strength exercise for the rest of your life, oh man. I mean, if it's only one, I'm going to pick something like that involves like everything. I'm just going to do Arthur lift, so I can do some overhead component, some back component. I guess that. Um, Thoughts on sandbag training? I don't think you should sandbag your training. I think you should go hard. Not just kidding. Yeah, sandbags are great. I think that's one of the like some odd implement stuff. I question the value of, but sandbags like ton of good back work. You can use them much the same way you'd use kind of a search or deadlift in your programming. Really good option. What's your body fat percentage? I don't know. I'm not dead. The only accurate way to actually tell your body fat percentage is weighing on autopsy, and I'm not committed enough to bodybuilding to go get an autopsy to figure out what my body fat percentage is. So I don't know. I would assume it's in the low teens, but who knows? It's become popular now to say like everybody, people who have good abs are like 20% body fat. I don't think that's true, but whatever. It's any advice for improving squat depth? I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to figure out the limiting factor. Is it your hip mobility or is it your ankle mobility, and then stretch those out? I think most people probably it's hip mobility, so probably the best way to just directly improve that would be seated good mornings. Um, yeah, seated good mornings are probably a good option, but I mean, if you don't want to do all that, you can always just elevate your heels, and that'll solve the issue. Okay, this is a multiple parter. As someone who tends to avoid seed oils in favor of animal fats, have you had your blood work done for LDL or just in general? Having looked at various people making the case, I don't think seed oil is bad. But I'd be interested to see some anecdotes from pro animal food guys who have a healthy lifestyle. No, I don't get my blood work done. I mean, I'm I'm healthy. I don't see the need to go to the doctor if you don't have any issues. Like if you don't have any issues you're looking at, I'm not. I mean, I don't think I really don't think you need to just go to the doctor randomly if you're fine. Obviously, if you know you have a pre-existing condition you need to look at, you probably should. But I push back on this thing that, oh yeah, well natties aren't healthy. They need to go get their blood work done too. No, I don't. I'm not doing. I don't have any risk factors. I don't do drugs. Okay, I don't do drugs. I don't have any known genetic conditions in my family. I'm perfectly healthy. You know. I mean, I think a lot of that push comes honestly from sites like Let's Get Checked and all that are honestly trying to sell you testosterone replacement therapy. They want you to get your blood work done. You're going to see, you know, lower T. Maybe you come in bad day, your T's low. Oh yeah, well we can do that. I mean, hell, what's his name? The blonde kid. What's that young man's name? Alex Eubank. I mean, that's how they got him. He goes in for a little blood test. They're like, hey, your test is a little bit, little bit low. You're 24, low body fat, but your test is a little bit low. You want to fix that? Oh, sure. There you go. All right. That's how that went. So yeah, no, I don't actually advocate that everybody, if you don't need to, you don't need to, all right? Okay. All right. So my laptop's actually going to die fairly soon, so I'm going to have to wrap this up. I may not get to all the Instagram questions, but whatever. I've given it a good shot. So this is a big question. Knowing that heavy weight training with spine flexion is okay, why would I, as a coach, insist that people should keep their back straight for deadlifts? I mean, should I just let everyone do deadlifts with spinal flexion since it's okay? What do you think? I mean, what do you do if you're coaching someone and they're doing deads with a bent back? Would you correct them into straight back or let them keep doing it the way they're doing it? So that depends. So yeah, I mean, loaded spinal flexion is safe, right? We can do Zercher deadlifts if if you're healthy, you can do Jefferson curls, right? Does that mean it's necessarily going to be the best choice for a deadlift? I mean, for that, I would say it's less a question of is it safe because with proper load management you can make it safe, but it is a good way to perform a conventional deadlift, not necessarily, right? You have some lifters who use a rounded back style like Konstantinovs very effectively, but then probably more people benefit from at least a more neutral spine in most cases. So uh, it's a practical question as far as like what's helping you get the most out of your deadlift, whether for peak deadlift when we're at max PR or just as a training implement, a training tool. So it's going to be kind of a case by case basis. If somebody's rounding their spine and it's working for them, they're doing that in a way like like Konstantinovs that enables them to lift a lot of weight effectively. I wouldn't correct that. But if someone's doing like a cat back deadlift, like you see these teenagers trying to deadlift for the first time and it's obviously not an efficient technique, I'm going to correct them. Not because it's necessarily always wrong to flex your spine, just because that's not a good deadlift. Just like if I see somebody trying to squat the deadlift, like they're having to their knees are traveling forward too much, so their bar's having to travel out around the knees. I'm going to correct that, not because it's bad for the knees to go over the toes, but just because that's making your deadlift less efficient. You're not going to lift as much. You're not going to have it as effective as a training tool, right? Um, so that's where I would go with that. Now, as far as the way I coach deadlifts, I'm not going to optimize it perfectly for powerlifting. Usually my clients are fairly experienced anyway. Usually they know how they pull conventional, so usually I don't have to correct too much. And if I do see something that's obviously an issue, I will. But other than that, I kind of let them, you know, do what is working for them. And I'm certainly not a powerlifting expert. So if you really do want to maximize your perfect technique on deadlift, if it's that important to you, I'm probably going to advise that you go to an actual powerlifting coach. Um, but yeah, I mean, if it's working for you for your training and for your goals, um, usually I'm going to let you keep doing it unless it's just something that's obviously inefficient. Like say, okay, dude, no, fix this and it'll be more efficient for you, right? Because my goal is typically to get people's deadlift up because they got stronger, not because they got good at deadlifting, right? And we a lot of that's going to mean focusing on other exercises other than the conventional deadlift, and having it come up as a byproduct of just getting stronger. So you're probably not even going to be conventional deadlifting every week. Usually, if I'm training you, I mean, because obviously, if you want to deadlift with a high frequency, your goals are probably not going to be such that I'd be a good fit for you, and I'd advise you to go, find a powerlifting coach or strongman coach or whatever the case may be. Um, so yeah, I'm definitely not obsessing over perfecting your deadlift technique, but obviously, if someone's surrounding their spine in a way that just is not efficient and is not going to make it a good exercise for them, then I would correct it in that case. But it's not going to be about safety because I mean, we know you can round the spine safely. It's just a matter of is this working for your training and your goals. You know what I mean? Good question. How to lose fat without losing strength? I mean, just lose fat. It's I mean, you may lose strength initially, but eventually you'll adapt and you shouldn't lose too much strength while on a cut. Ever do any backpacking? No, I'd like to someday, but closest thing I do is hiking with toddlers on my back. Um, Favorite carb for bulking? I mean, I like berries. I mean, berries are probably your best bang for buck carb source in terms of getting a bunch of other nutrients in. I mean, other than that, I'll use rice. I'll use hell, whatever. I don't think it really matters too much what your carb source is, as long as it's not like donuts or something. Nemesis bar for lat pullovers. Haven't used it. If it feels good, I mean, with any pullover, if it feels good, just go ahead and do it. Are conventional deadlifts overrated for novices? Kind of. I mean, I don't think it's the best developmental exercise, but there's definitely something to be said for just getting good at picking up a weight that's in front of you. I mean, I feel like that's fairly important for life. So it's something that novices should be doing. I don't think it should be all that they're doing. I think, other superior developmental exercises like Romanian deadlifts also have a place in a novice program. But and I think so yeah, it's probably overrepresented in novice programs because it's not but it is something that you should be getting good at, if you're lifting just to be strong and you're not practicing just picking up a dead weight off the ground in front of you. I mean, you are kind of missing the point to an extent. Just, but I would say a little goes a long way there. Your thoughts, insights on Alain Nalgani and the way he moves and trains? He's a beast. Yeah, his training is awesome. I don't think there's anything constructive I could say about it. His training is obviously very good, and he's obviously super impressive. But I don't know what insight I could offer as to that. Uh, I'm glad. Gonna not answer that one right now. Thoughts on training through chronic pain? That's okay. So that's kind of a two-parter. Why do you have the chronic pain? So if you have chronic pain, if you're an advanced lifter who's gotten chronic pain through lifting, I recommend you don't train through pain. I recommend you figure out the source of the problem, fix it so you're not training through pain. Okay? That being said, that message may not be what everyone needs to hear because there are probably a lot of people just in life who have chronic pain, just probably from underuse rather than overuse. Maybe back pain, maybe knee pain, and just getting them active is probably going to be beneficial, even if that does mean training through pain. So generally, I would say if you're just getting into it, you might need to train through some pain, and it might be beneficial to you. But more advanced lifters should probably take more advanced lifters should probably listen to their body and not train through pain. Does that make sense? And that's kind of painting with a broad brush, right? So that's not going to be applicable to everyone, but I'm trying to give the best advice possible. And yeah, I mean, if you've been sedentary and you need to lose weight and you just you're generally a wreck, you might be in some pain, so you might have to train through some pain. You know what I mean? Thoughts on weight gain or if you're struggling to gain weight? I mean, I guess you could always just add like chocolate to your milk, but whatever. It's kind of the same thing. Advice for beginner coaches. Um, I mean, just if you know what you're doing, just be confident in that, and most importantly, just invest in your clients. Let them know that their success is important to you. Show them that you get excited for their potential and their progress, and just make a good impression, and just show people you care, and that's going to go a long way towards generating loyalty and just good results for everyone. Show them you care, and you want them to succeed as much as they do, and that'll go a really long way. Obviously, provided that you know what you're doing. Not a question, but thank God someone else has their head screwed on in response to Joey Swoll. Yeah, that guy's so pretentious. I mean, like he's kind of like that that Christian preacher who's gonna just lecture every just talk about do a sermon on manliness and act like he's the only real man in the room. Like, shut up, dude. Just go be the best person in the world somewhere else. Jesus Christ, guy's annoying. Yeah. Can you front squat double your body weight? No, I don't think. No, I mean, I know I couldn't right now. I think if I trained up for it, sure, but I mean, I haven't done front squats in years, so I doubt it. Obviously, I can Zercher squat my double body weight for like high reps, probably at least 10. Back squat, I mean, again, I haven't done heavy back squats in forever, but yeah, I could definitely do double body weight for multiple reps if I trained up to it. Certainly, I've done it before. Front squat, I don't see why not. I just have never gone anywhere near that. Have I done? I don't think I've ever done a double body weight front squat. That would for right now that would be like four. Yeah, right now that'd be like what 430 roughly, which that's actually kind of a tall order. I mean, I'm sure I could do it with enough practice. It would mostly just be about getting that front rack good. I'd probably have to get some lifters, some lifting shoes, I think, to make that work. But if I got some lifting shoes, I don't see why not. But like not right now, definitely no. All right, my battery's about to run out pretty soon, so I'll try to get as few try to get as many as I can done first. Should if the lifters experience like you innovate on certain lifts? Absolutely. If you have something you're trying to get, you're not always going to have an out of the box solution to every problem. If you're trying to train a certain muscle in a certain range, figure out a way to make it work. I mean, all the time I'll just kind of lie down on the bench, try to get to certain angles that I want to train, and just figure out a way to make that work. Figure out what tools I have available to me. Absolutely, yeah. Innovation is important because even if there's a solution out there, you may not necessarily have the equipment for it right where you are, so you might have to innovate and figure something out. Yeah, definitely. Stop cutting body fat to start gaining weight again. I mean, obviously you don't get down to like you know 5% body fat, but basically like whenever it just gets really hard and you're having you're it kind of seems like you're hitting a point of diminishing returns where your weight loss is slowed, you're just really struggling with wanting to go off your diet and stuff. And provided you've already lost a good amount, because don't like diet for 2 weeks and then, oh, it's getting hard, I'm going to quit. But you've been at it for a couple months and it's getting really hard. Switch gears, just back and forth, bulk and cut. You know what I mean? All right, I didn't get to all of them on Instagram, but that is about the end of my battery life, so I'm going to have to call it here. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun out here answering all these questions.